All right. So now I did a lot of stuff here. I saved you some of the boring stuff like cutting all these things off. I had 6 footers. I needed 3 footers and a foot and a half or whatever else for the legs. Something else that I went ahead and did is I went ahead and cut these uprights. And notice here that in these uprights, there's actually well, there's holes in here, and they're 0.257, which happens to be the tap drill size for 5/16 18, which makes this stuff really really awesome for doing things like this. And so I had to tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so a total of 16. And then based upon my leg design and putting the caster on, I'm deciding to use the end of this as well. So I ended up having to go ahead and tap the ends of these pieces as well. So I did that off camera. You've probably seen tapping before, so not super exciting, but all of them share the same size hole, so I can use the 5/16. So the hardware is very simplified as far as that goes. So now it is a matter of assembling. So again, I've already bolted this piece on the top here. Everything worked out beautifully. Everything's in line the way it should be. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and assemble the legs, and then I can flip everything over. And after I flip it over, then I can go ahead and assemble the top piece. I'm going to get my really expensive calipers out of the way here because I don't want to lose those. But this assembly right here, pretty straightforward. I have already started some of the hardware on the inside. And what I'm going to do is slide this right up here. Now, the challenge for me at the moment is I'm going to go ahead and have to figure out with a tape measure or some kind of a measuring device exactly where center is, right? So if I know that these are 36 inches long, which I got to recheck that, so I just got to get this really close to 18. Now, look, if it's a little bit off, it's not the end of the world, but I like to try to make things a little closer than not. So we're just going to go ahead and try to line this up. We have holes that basically go across this part, like in what would be considered the center in this direction. So it's very easy to line up that and get it reasonably close. And then what we're going to do is go ahead and snug up our part here. And now the socket head cap screws are just like what you're seeing here. They go flush on the top side, which is really nice. And we're just going to go ahead and snug them down so they're not terribly loose. And then what we can do is go ahead and take a look at our short pieces here. So we have the short piece. We have our nuts and our bolts. And what we're going to do is try to start these things together as well. So it's going to look a little bit like this. And we're going to start this one here. That one's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get, but we're going to figure it out. We're going to have it extended this way, have this one extended outwards like that. And then when we go to put this piece on, I think I actually ended up tapping more than I needed to with those. But we're going to lift up on this and slide that in. And then, of course, that should be right on center. There's nothing really we can do except for shove it right up against that. Shove it right up against the 80-20 piece that's there. And we're going to snug this up as well. And while I got you on camera here, I'll just go ahead and we'll assemble the other side, and then we'll flip it over and put the top on there. So go ahead and start my assemblies here. Kind of hard to see what I'm doing over top of my shoulder. But it is much like I did on the other side. Go ahead and get that one started. Point that one in the direction. Point that one in the direction. I have one more part over here. Yeah, and I ended up foolishly tapping both sides of these short pieces, which I really did not need to do. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just that I just literally put more material across my tap than was absolutely necessary. So that was kind of foolish on my part, but this is going to go together nicely. Okay, so now this is all snugged up and this can actually flip over. So we're going to do that. So this is going to be the bottom here. The casters are actually going to bolt onto the 4 corners of this. So we got a nice wide base for this thing to turn. I really wanted 6 legs, but as far as the complication and stuff like that and the amount of time that I was going to need to sacrifice for this, I thought this was going to work. Plus, we're going to have to anchor this thing anyway. to some kind of an origin when we go to use the robot, because you're going to need, like I said, a 0 point. So we don't want to mess that up. But anyway, all right. So now I have my other plate here, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that right on the top. And then we're going to get our 1.5" long bolts. We got plenty of thread engagement for this. Now listen, it probably didn't need 1.5" long bolts based upon my design. The reason it's 1.5" is because the 1.5" is going to work in multiple places. So even though it's a little long for this, I'm really not concerned with it. It will do the job and not be too much. But like, I'd rather not buy like a whole bunch of different hardware in order to be able to put this thing together. I'd just rather have 1 or 2 different bolt sizes, which actually I ended up with 3 on this particular project. So anyway, here's the top going together. I'm not going to keep this video going a whole lot longer, only because you can see what's going on right here. Like, you see where the legs are going to go. Again, I don't have the casters right here. That's going to be a later video. I'll probably go ahead and wrap up this series with that. And then, of course, with eventually bolting the robots on there. So it's going to be in just a few days, and we're going to end up having those robots back, and they should bolt right on here. And by that time, I should have all this lettering and everything else taken off of the top of this mount plate. Now, the mount plate, why is it square? It just happens to be, it was less machining for me. Did I want it round? Yeah, I actually wanted it round, and I wanted it prettier. But I also have to manage the amount of time that I'm spending on some of this stuff. And so I just decided to keep it square. That, and the other thing is that for some reason, if the robots change or we got to get something different, I have more area here. If I go machine stuff away, then I might not necessarily have the footprint that I need in order to put more holes in here. But very simply, I could just unbolt this plate, put it back on the machining center, and go ahead and put whatever other bolt pattern I need to in here for this. So anyway, that so far wraps up the main components of this this robot stand. And so, like I said, the next video, you're going to end up seeing the casters going on. I have some 3D printed parts, again, that complement the end of these, and then we can put these leveling casters on, and then we'll wrap up with that robot.